It's not about learning a new modality, I think, is what I'm trying to say here. It's more about knowing the people you want to care for and learning more in those areas and making sure you refer those people you don't want to see off to other practitioners, not advertising to them in the first place, realizing that if you can be a fly on the wall in someone else's practice for a while so that you get more confidence, you can see how they practice, then that's really worth looking into if you can. Mentoring with Geraldine is a bite-sized practitioner podcast for naturopaths, nutritionists, herbalists, coaches, and practitioners. This podcast responds directly to the needs of you, the practicing natural therapist. We have interviews during the holiday season and business and mindset support each week, so you'll get the variety you need to enjoy and stay motivated in your practice. Don't forget to subscribe to receive the weekly episodes. And if you want to connect with me, always check the show notes because that's where you'll find the links to book appointments and, of course, to join the Academy, the membership group where there's constant connection and community with like-minded practitioners. Now, let's get started. Hello, and welcome to Mentoring with Geraldine and the Bite Size Podcast. How the devil are you? And welcome to October. So the month of October is going to be all about the questions that you have sent me as part of joining the Confident Practitioner Community. When you join the free Facebook group, it asks you in the questions, how can I help you? What are you struggling with right now? And I make sure that I copy all of those out and put them on a spreadsheet. And spreadsheets really, I'm not very good at them. I try very hard at them. And one thing about them that's really cool is that this one particular spreadsheet I have, it's got problems identified and it's got the problems from the Confident Practitioner Community and from other areas where I ask people, I'll send out emails, what are you struggling with right now? And it means that I have got the problems I can advertise to, right? And that's what you need as well. So when you're trying to niche and you're trying to decide what your specialist area is, when we're talking to people to connect with us, we need them to connect with us via their problem. So it's a really good idea to be asking people what the problem is, what outcome they want, so that we can be advertising to that. If we want to do IBS, then we're talking about the problem of bloating, of nausea, not wanting to eat certain foods. Those are the problems that the person is expressing. And so then, of course, the result is what's the opposite of that? So losing the bloat, feeling energized. So we've got the opposite. We've got the problem and the solution. And then we can be advertising to the problem and the solution. I talk more about this in my groups. I've got some wonderful questions and I thought October is a great time to go through those questions. So we've got 5 podcasts in October. I might do some more of these into November. We'll see how we go. But really wanted to tuck into some of these questions. So let's get started. So this one here is from Jessica. And Jessica Cook says, struggling with feeling like I need to know more before I can start, not knowing if it's imposter syndrome or if that I actually need more training. The more I learn, the more I realized I don't know. Now that is a really, really common thing. The more I learn, the less I know. And what I noticed as a nurse, so junior doctors will be quite demanding and say they want this, that, and the other thing. Whereas the most senior of doctor, they're always amazing and they can do everything. And yet they realize that there is so much more to learn. And so it's a very different conversation. Okay. These are the only people I can compare to when I think about someone who is still at the beginning of their journey to the retirement or end of their journey. And so we're learning all of the time. And when I came out of nursing college, quick backtrack there, we had lots of people come and talk to us. We're just about finished and we had lots of people come and talk to us about all the different jobs we could have. Jobs in the hospital on the wards. We had someone from the prison service. I was in the UK, so someone from the prison service come out and talk to us. That's really interesting because the prison service there, the nurses have their own training. They're all like nurse practitioners because a lot of stuff, they have to learn to stitch wounds and do all sorts of things because people don't necessarily leave the prison to get their medical help. They get it within the prison. So there was, work on the wards, work in specialty areas, prison service came to talk to us. The military came to talk to us, what we'd do if we joined the army. And we had all these different people come and talk to us. And then one of the lecturers said, if you want to work in the US, if you want to work in the States, because words are different, right? So we use adrenaline here in Australia, New Zealand, and in the UK. When we're starting someone's heart, we might give them adrenaline. Whereas in the United States, they'll be giving them epinephrine. Same thing, different word. So she came and she stood there and she said, if you want to do the exam to work in the States, she said, do it now, because you'll never know more than you know right now for a generalized exam situation. It was very similar. You come out of college, you've got a lot of generalized information. You have a lot of support networks and you've got a lot of people who are there helping you. So when you come out, you need those stepping stones. Where am I going next? So I ran the graduate program for, I think it was 7 years until I got bored delivering the same lectures. That's the honest truth of it. And because those were areas that people don't cover in college. So now you can just buy the lectures and listen to them and learn from them and still have contact with myself and have the group where you get to ask questions. So we need a pathway, right? When we're coming out, it's not imposter syndrome. She says, struggling with feeling like I need to know more before I can start, not knowing if it's imposter syndrome or if it's I actually need more training. We constantly need training. That's what CPA or CPD, whatever you want to call it, is all about. It's about updating. It's about training. It's about constantly learning and improving ourselves. So yes, we do need to keep training. We do need to keep learning. What we don't need are new modalities all of the time. Okay. And often when we feel inadequate, we think it's because we need to learn a new thing, a new skill. You've come out as a nutritionist. So yes, you need to be a naturopath now. Do you? Could you just learn herbal medicine as an advanced diploma and perhaps that would be enough if you really wanted to use the herbs? Or maybe you went into nutrition because you didn't like herbs. And so do you really need to study naturopathy? Perhaps you've studied naturopathy and then you're like, oh, now I need to do a psychology degree. Why didn't you do psychology in the first place? I've studied this and now I want to do that. Is it because this first degree hasn't fulfilled you? Or is it because you actually studied the wrong thing? Is it because you are scared that you don't know enough and that it could be a problem? Or maybe it's just not in your skill set. You've got to the end of your training and realized that you actually need to see people one-to-one and that's not your thing. You didn't enjoy being in clinic. I did notice that when I was taking the final theory class, which doesn't exist anymore. It was a final theory class at Endeavour and I used to take that. And right at the end of it, I was like to somebody, what are you going to do? And she said, well, I'm not going to do this. I don't like this one-to-one activity, which is what I've ended up with. So I'm going to have to do something else. I'm like, well, you can totally do programs. You can do groups. You can perhaps then you do want to go into research and you do want to do that master's so that you can hang out as a researcher rather than but what are you going to research and are you going to get funding? And you would need to work for somebody else. So no, it's not imposter syndrome. What it is understanding that you need to learn more, that there is more to learn. There is always more to learn. It is easier to run a business if you niche because then you're only learning one or maybe two areas. So I've worked in pediatrics a really long time because I was a pediatric nurse. So I started out as an adult nurse. I worked in adult. My first job was in oncology. But during my training, we'd had a large component of pediatrics, which I'd really enjoyed. And then I moved into neonatal intensive care. Then I was in pediatrics. And so then I worked in community pediatrics. So I sort of stayed in that area. So I niched. So I learned more and more and more about pediatrics, which is why there's a pediatric online mastery course, which hold your cash in your pocket until November because it will be on the Black Friday sale this year. But make sure you get it then. So when we niche, we are better because we're learning one area. We're sticking with one thing and then we can branch out from there. So, I did a lot of pediatrics, but also I did a lot of gut work. I found that everyone who came to me needed gut work, whether they had anxiety or whatever was wrong with them. They'd always tell me their guts were dodgy. And I ended up doing gut work. And once I'd done the gut work, hey presto, these other symptoms would disappear. So that was where I ended up putting, all of my eggs in one basket. Many of those people couldn't eat eggs, but it was in gut work, because that's where I was finding my clients were mostly coming from. That was what their problems were. But it wasn't necessarily my specialist area. My specialist area was pediatrics, but I had a number of areas because a number of people that came to see me. So when I first qualified, it was just menopause. All I saw were menopausal people. I didn't have menopause. I saw babies and children and menopausal ladies. It was the two ends of the spectrum, and the odd bloke here and there, right? It was very odd. And yet I didn't have menopause at the time. I don't know why I was getting these menopausal ladies, but if you're helping one person and then they tell their friends, and of course with me, if you refer someone to me, then you get that thing free, right? So if if you referred a client to me, then you will get a free appointment. So it's well worth it for people to make referrals to me, because they're going to get a free appointment. Why wouldn't I offer that? Why wouldn't I offer them time with me when they've just given me someone that I'm going to see to the value of about $3,000? It's really worth it. So when we're thinking about coming back into it, no, it's not imposter syndrome. It's honesty, but it's also because you need mentoring and you need support. So get in contact. The Monday group is where you need to be so that you can sit and listen. You can have one-to-ones with me, and you can ask the questions about your clients. But I need to know more before I can start. There's obviously all of that breaking out into the world. Have you got your website? Have you got your social media? Have you got your ABN? And so again, you need me then. Then again, you can just do it all yourself. It is all possible to do oneself. It's not easy. It's better to have a list of things. So I've got webinars and courses on how to do it and what to look for, and everything's in the academy. Yeah, it's not about learning a new modality, I think, is what I'm trying to say here. It's more about knowing the people you want to care for and learning more in those areas, and making sure you refer those people you don't want to see off to other practitioners, not advertising to them in the first place, realizing that if you can be a fly on the wall in someone else's practice for a while so that you get more confidence, you can see how they practice, then that's really worth looking into if you can. A number of practitioners will offer that sort of mentoring. I do. Although now I'm online, we do the group mentoring, the Monday group. So, think about how can you get the support, the ongoing support and mentoring that you need from me. Yes, obviously you're listening to my podcast, but it might be there's somebody else that you want to mentor with, and that's cool too. Let's connect. Let's chat. Let me know. I hope that helps. So October is going to be these questions, and I look forward to sharing more. Next, I need to upskill, get more confidence knowledge. There's another one. There's another question up there. So get in contact if you have a question. But I enjoy being here. I enjoy working as a mentor. I enjoy supporting people in their practice. And I look forward to supporting you even more. So I'll catch up with you in the rest of October with more questions. Have a good one. See ya. Thanks so much for joining me today. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast for the weekly episodes. If you'd like even more support and learning, then the Academy is for you. Here you'll find part 2 of the herbal discussions, more clinical learning, and case studies to support your clients in practice. Bye for now.